Welcome to Slow and Steady, the podcast where you get to follow along as we figure out how to build products and recover from burnout. I'm Brian.
And I'm Benedikt. Each week we'll give you an honest peek into our lives as we work on our products and figure things out. I'm not used to this new intro.
Yeah,
today is January 12th and I'm feeling optimistic.
This is episode number 73 and I'm feeling sluggish. Well, yeah, I have to say, I'm glad to hear you're feeling optimistic.
Well, at least about the business.
Yeah, right.
The world in general, I don't know. But work-wise, things are looking good.
Good.
Well, at least I'm optimistic about them.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's a good mindset to be in for sure. Yeah. So we can talk about this for just a little bit and then move on to our updates, because we were talking before we hit record about, what all do we want to mention about, the fact that in the United States of America last week, there was an attempted coup by the president of the United States and his supporters. And it should be stated as plainly as that. And, there are still people who are like, well, I don't know, should we remove the president? And that's what's particularly frightening is this man, the threat that he is to this democracy and to democracies around the world is not going anywhere. He leaves office on the 20th.
Yeah.
And he is not going to shut up. And neither are his faction of fascists who love the man and not the Constitution. And it's dangerous. It's awful.
Yeah, it's frightening. I said it before, I'm kind of surprised that it took that long to escalate to that level.
Right.
But
yep.
I was kind of like the last couple of weeks, I was hoping that, okay, maybe we got lucky and things will work out smoothly and we're back to normal. But right now it doesn't look like it will ever. The next couple of years will still be horrible in that regard, I guess.
In that regard. And that's what's so frustrating about, even building up to the election. I mean, 71 million people in this country voted for him, watched him for 4 years, and then said, sure, let's vote for a little bit more of that. And a large percentage of them was just this total misread of, he's not polished. I wish that he's not the typical politician, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, you're completely misreading the situation. It's not that he's unpolished. Yeah. He would be a dictator if he were able to be. He would. That would be his choice. And people were just either not seeing that because of their hatred of the left, or just completely willfully blind because he aligns with their religious beliefs, economic policy, all these other things that were more important to them than the fact that he has every characteristic of a would-be dictator. And wow, who could have seen this coming except for literally anybody paying attention? And every single one of his Republican primary opponents in 2016. This is not a surprise. It's shocking and it's terrible. There's nothing surprising about it. And he's not going anywhere. I don't know. There will be, it's awful. It's awful. So,
and the part that I don't get, why, I mean, there's still a couple of people in denial that he lost the election, but I was thinking maybe things would move around now that it's official that he lost the election and he's going, well, at least if things go correctly, he's leaving office in a couple of days. And I was thinking, okay, maybe now people start, not aligning with him anymore and being like, okay, he's going to be out of power soon. I can finally talk up and say my opinion that maybe he doesn't agree with or something like that. But that didn't happen it happened a little bit, but not to an extent.
Not enough. Too little, too late.
Felt good.
I mean, there are still some, if 71 million people voted for him, and if even 3/4 of those people are like, yeah, I'm not in favor of this. That's still like 15, 18 million people in the country who believe that the election was stolen from him. People are willing to die for their country, and they're willing to sacrifice things. And so they're believing this man and his lies. And so of those 15 million people, it doesn't take that many people to mount a sustained armed insurrection against our democratic government. And that, I think, is virtually guaranteed to happen at this point because of how dangerous he is. Yeah. And just because he's no longer in power doesn't mean he's going to have any of his influence stripped away from him.
Yeah.
He's a grave threat to the world. And people have been saying it for years, and not enough people wanted to believe it. And now we see what happens when you don't deal with somebody like that.
Yeah.
He's a traitor.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, so gosh.
that had to go out, right?
Yeah.
It has to be said.
Okay. Hey, so how are things over in Userlist land, man? What's up?
Well, yeah, things are okay. Feels weird to kind of move on after this discussion, but I don't know what else to say. I mean, it even feels weird for me. Like, this is one thing that I've been thinking about last week a lot, like while this was happening and playing out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in a way, like I'm over here in Europe. I'm based in Germany. Why should I care? But it still upset me a lot.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
part of that is probably because I'm invested in Userlist is a US-based company. I have a lot of friends over there. I'm talking to you every week, so I feel like I'm more invested in this or more connected to this than I maybe should be. But then again, I mean, he still is commander of a lot of nuclear warheads.
Yeah.
Which are very easily affecting us as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Don't want to bring down everyone by just saying that this way. But yeah, so in Userlist land last week was hectic as well in a way. We had some performance issues once again. One of our customers, I might have mentioned this last week, one of our customers starting using Userlist in a not anticipated way.
You did talk about that. Yeah.
We had to reschedule the recording last week because of that. So I was able to figure out the root cause, worked around it, and spent basically the rest of the week just analyzing things and trying to squeeze out more performance from stuff. It went okay, but it does, like, I think this is at a stage where like all the big improvements are implemented by now. Now it's mostly trying to outsmart the database here and there, but I was hoping for more improvement than I was able to squeeze out of it, and I think I'm at the end of my knowledge there. Maybe I will discover something in the future, but all the optimizations that I had in mind are implemented by now.
Yeah.
What two things I wanted to mention? I've been reading a lot of Postgres explain statements. Basically, tell you like which are the slow parts of a query, where it does read from disk, where it reads the index and stuff like that. And there are two tools out there that we link to in the show notes because they're pretty great. There's one that's been around forever. It's explaindepeche.com, where you just paste the explain output and it will basically highlight the expensive parts of it. And there's a newer one called Postgres Explain Visualizer, and that's a little bit more difficult to use because you have to, when you generate the explain command in Postgres, you have to export it as JSON, and you get this big JSON blob, and you paste it in there. But it builds a nice tree basically a tree graph with all the nodes in there and explanations.
Wow.
It breaks
That
down the
sounds-
data very well. And that was super useful to try and understand what the database is doing with those crazy queries and how the improvements or the potential improvements are affecting things.
Does it offer potential improvements, or does it just show you here's where it's expensive? Now you have to figure out how to correct it. Okay.
It basically just shows you here's where it is expensive and how many, like, usually it boils down to, for some reason the database isn't using an index, and then it's basically going to the data to the disk and just like reading every single row, and that gets super slow once the database is large, and it highlights out those parts, and it also shows like what like what the estimated cost is of those operations, and where the query planner decided, okay, I'm doing this because I expect it to behave that way.
Mm-hmm.
And with all that information, it's easier to understand like how the database understands the query and what you can maybe change in expressing what you actually want the database to do. And that usually helps to improve it. When you're lucky, it's just like a bunch of sequential scans from the disk, and you just add a new index, and things are super fast. But it wasn't the case with us. It took a little bit more work to figure this out this time. So yeah, but those two tools, super helpful.
Cool.
If you're on Postgres, check them out. It's super useful.
Yeah, nice. Cool. Yeah, and we'll link to those in the show notes.
Yeah. The other thing I want to say about performance is Rails counter caching is evil.
So what? Explain to me like I'm 5 or like I'm a Brian front end developer. What is counter caching?
So Rails has this feature where, let's say you have a forum software with posts and comments,
okay,
and you want to display a list of all the posts in a forum with the associated count of comments.
Yes.
The naive way to do this is to just list all the posts and then count all the comments. Well, the super naive way is to count them like for every single post. Do a select count where post ID is whatever.
Yep.
And again, that counting in the database is super slow, so that gets slow. And also like n+1 queries where you basically run a count query for every single of those posts gets slow. So Rails has this mechanism where it basically maintains a counter cache column on the posts table that just includes like the comments count. And it's just whenever you add a post, it increases it by 1. When you remove it, it decreases it by 1. And we have some of those use cases in Userlist, for example.
Can I just make sure that I'm completely understanding this? Okay, so a post has comments, and I'm looping through all of these posts. And if I want to show the number of comments, then I would say something like post.comments.size and get the count. Okay, and you're saying that rather than doing that, I could just say the post and then a column of the post dot comment size.
Yeah.
Rather than having to,
Yeah, the cool thing about Rails is it basically makes this transparent. You can still do post.comments.size, and when the counter cache is in place, it will recognize it and read that value rather than query the database for it. And as I said, we use this. We have this use case in a couple places in Userlist, but the problem is this works great for like read intensive databases where you like read the database a lot but don't change it that much.
Yeah. Okay.
But when we run automations in Userlist, we were using counter caching for like, so you can see like where people are at, like how many people are supposed to receive this message soon and stuff like that. So we're using counter caches for that. But then one of our customers last week triggered campaigns, like a single campaign for several thousand users at the same time. And then suddenly those counter caches getting updated almost at the same time. Like 1,000 processes want to update that cache, and the database doesn't like that. Basically, there's a locking mechanism in there, so only one process can update that counter at a single time, and all the others have to wait. But if you have 1,000 processes trying to update that value at the same time, it just slows things down immensely. It's just crazy. And that was what was causing the problems last week. Just things that usually take milliseconds took minutes.
Oh, wow.
Literally forever. So I had to remove all of that from the application, and now I'm back to now that problem is gone, but then reading is slow again. So there's still a larger to do on my to-do list to figure out something. So
what are how do people address that if counter caching doesn't work because you have a write heavy database?
So I think one way to do this would be to not store the counters in Postgres and but store them in Redis, something like that's a lot faster with updates. But I'm not a super great fan of that, because it feels like there's a disconnect there and it might get out of sync. And the other thing that I will probably do at some point is instead of updating the column directly, create a new table that's basically a counter change queue, whatever, and let the processes update, like add a row to that queue.
Yep.
And then have a separate job that just sums things up and writes it to the actual column every minute or so. Because just inserting rows in a database table isn't locking a row, because it's just creating a new one. That prevents basically the race condition on the logs. And you could still, like, you can either be okay with there being a little bit of a delay in the counter, so it maybe takes a minute or so for it to show the correct value. Or what you also could do is, when you query that column, and do a sum of all the changes in that other table at the same time. And that would give you real-time updates on the counter value without having to update it in real time. But it's a little bit, I mean, even explaining it takes a bit of time. Implementing it is also not trivial. So I'm not entirely sure. Like, I should probably do this at some point, but there's so many other things to do, so I'm not entirely sure.
Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, what else is going on? What are those so many other things to do?
Yeah, so the other important thing that happened this week was on Monday. We had our first founder call of the year. We do weekly calls. Jane and I do weekly calls, and basically, usually we just talk about what's planned for the week, any important stuff we want to discuss. And we had this one topic of money that we wanted to talk about for a couple of weeks, and we always kept like, let's wait and not have this discussion now. And we postponed it until this week. We decided, okay, let's talk about our financial situation and what to do for the new year. And we talked about a lot of things. Like, one of the options was, should we go back to consulting?
Wow. Yeah.
But we decided we don't want to. Like, not unless we have to. And the other thing we discussed was, should we get more investment? Like, we still have some money left from the Tiny Seed investment, but it will run out at some point if we don't grow the MRR to a certain level. So we were thinking about, should we get more money? And some people, like, we get asked from time to time if we'd be up for more investment. So it was like, it probably wouldn't be super hard to do that. But in the end, we decided to not raise more money right now, because it doesn't really solve anything. I mean, yes, we have more capital in the bank and maybe could use it for more marketing or maybe hire someone.
Yeah.
But unless we figure out something substantial, it will still run out. And worst case, we have like 5 employees, and in a year we run out of money and have to let them go. And even worse case is we can't run it as a two-person team by then anymore. So we'd be in big problems.
Does it solve your runway issue though, so that, should we go back to consulting? Well, only if we have to take that off the table for at least another year.
Yeah, it would solve the runway problem. But we'd also give away like more equity, like lose some stake in the company, which I mean isn't necessarily that bad, but if we can avoid it, that would be nice. I guess.
Sure.
So what we ended up doing was, because salaries are our biggest expense right now, we just decided to pay us less this year, at least for now, and we agreed to reduce it to a level where our runway basically extends for an entire year. So with the new salaries, we can pay ourselves and keep the business up and running until January, assuming we don't grow. And to be honest, it's a little bit less than I'd like to get every month in terms of salary. But I mean, savings in the bank, personal bank account, and stuff like that, it will work out. It's not a deal breaker.
Okay.
But it removes some stress. That's like
yeah.
I think at least I was super relieved after this call, because it was like, okay, we bought us half a year basically. And sure, it would be nice to get things, grow things to a certain size faster than that, but at least it gives them some room to still experiment, because we also talked about the new direction for Userlist, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute. But before this decision, we'd run out of money by sometime in the summer, June, July, August, something like that. And that only gives us like 6 months, and we have to nail it by then, and has to take off by then.
Yeah,
and that's
hard.
That's unlikely.
Yeah.
So this decision just removes a lot of the stress.
Cool. Yeah.
The downside is, as I said, like it's a little bit less money than we'd need for monthly expenses. And also we have this salary cap in Tiny Seed, so we're allowed to pay us a certain salary every year. And once we want to pay out more than that, we have to basically do it as dividends and give Tiny Seed a share.
Yep.
And we basically made full use of that salary cap in 2020. And now this year we're not paying it as much as we want to or could pay out, or would be allowed to pay out. But for us, the goal right now is to take a little bit less salary now, hopefully grow it to a place where it can pay full salaries, and then maybe we get a big raise in summer or at the end of the year, or end of year bonus, because the salary cap doesn't roll over. Like if we don't make use of it, we're not allowed to pay more next year.
Yeah, push it over to the next. That's fair.
In a way, it's a little bit weird, because on one side you don't want to pay out too much, because you don't want to ruin the company with your salaries. But everything we don't pay out now, like we lose that right to get that money in future years. So it's a bit of a balance, but hopefully it will work out, and we can raise salaries again.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it seems like, the primary thing right now is to stay alive. And so if taking that pay cut means that you extend your runway from the summer to next January, then the whole salary cap and rollover thing is just irrelevant, really.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if Userlist is around in 2022 to be, oh man, too bad we couldn't roll that stuff over. Like, that's good news.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So
yeah.
But I totally, I'm not trying to diminish the potential sting there. It's just,
yeah. I mean, it's
you're making the total right decision in terms of,
like,
what's the first priority? Extend the runway.
Yeah, and it's a bit like I think it's a personal choice how to deal with that salary cap and things like that. I know of some other companies in TinySeed who are just basically not paying themselves anything.
Yeah, right.
That's the other extreme of it. I'm not entirely sure if it's the. Well, I'm not saying it's not smart. It's just like, different approach to it. And I think right now we are leaning towards the side of pay out as much as possible, unless it breaks the business. Because, I mean, we could be like, instead of doing this, we could be doing consulting, and consulting pays a lot better than running your own business, at least right now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But as I said, like, in terms of direction for Userlist in 2021, we did all those interviews or Jane did all those interviews. I'm not taking credit for them. And I think I mentioned it in previous episodes. There wasn't a clear winner in terms of this is the thing people need and this is the thing people want. But we decided to pursue the direction of opening Userlist up for marketing emails.
Okay.
Because it feels like, it's happening. Because it feels like it's in a way, it's the easiest thing to do from all those things we had as potential directions. Because, I mean, it's just removing limitations.
Okay.
And I mean, there's stuff like forms and double opt-in, but they're not super hard to build. At least that's what I'm saying right now. But what gets exciting there is right now, Userlist isn't really like Userlist is an additional tool you can buy and do all your customer communication with it.
Mm-hmm.
But you still need something for your marketing list.
Right.
And right now, it's just an additional expense, and it doesn't really replace another tool. And we talked a little bit about replacing Intercom by like adding chat and customer support and all of that. But by opening it up for marketing emails, we can basically replace your existing email marketing tool, your MailChimp, your ConvertKit, your Drip, whatever you're using.
Yep.
And that sounds like way more achievable than building a customer support tool on top of Userlist right now.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm excited about this. I mean, hopefully we can become the email marketing tool for SaaS applications versus like the others being ConvertKit email automation for bloggers or content producers, and Drip for e-commerce, and I don't know, and maybe Userlist can become the thing to use for SaaS applications. So I'm excited about this direction. We talked to a couple people about this, and a lot of them mentioned, I'd consider switching if you build this. So hopefully that's true and they're not just saying it.
What's the what is it that would position you as the email marketing for SaaS applications that ConvertKit or Drip don't do? Do you know what that is just yet?
Well, the company tracking feature we're building right now is definitely something, because Intercom does this a little bit, but the other tools don't, and it doesn't look like they will ever support this.
Okay.
So that's kind of unique. And I think it's more of a mental thing in terms of what features we're going to add in the future. Like, we might not be super differentiated there, but let's say we add a Stripe integration that deals with subscriptions of some sort. I don't know what that would look like, but instead of assuming that these are like one-time purchases in an online store, assume like we're dealing with subscriptions and a SaaS application.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where it gets interesting, and we can be unique in a way and solve that specific use case for SaaS applications. That's the plan.
Okay.
I mean, we'll see how it works
That's
out.
exciting. I mean, yeah, that's a big announcement, and that'll be a pretty big, that'll be a pretty big iteration of the product.
Yeah, it will be. I'm a little bit worried that it maybe it's too late for this, because we've been telling people Userlist isn't for marketing emails for like almost 3 years now.
Yeah.
And I'm worried that it maybe is stuck in people's minds that Userlist isn't for marketing. So it will take some effort to switch that. But then again,
it sounds more like people are saying, can Userlist do marketing emails, rather than Userlist is not for marketing emails. It's what your users are saying.
Yeah. You're probably right about that. And hopefully, like, the potential market is bigger than the people who are know about Userlist already and assume that it will not be able to do this. So will be a lot of work. I'm not looking forward to it, but I think it's a good direction.
What's the development timeline look like?
I don't know.
You have any? Okay, all right, cool.
I mean, personal goal would be
totally fair answer right now.
Personal goal is to have this done or in some form or another by summer. But I think the goal will be to do this with our existing customers who are asking for this. Before we roll out anything, just like try to remove limitations that the current product has to make it work for our existing customers who are asking for this. And at some point, it will be good enough to roll it out for everyone. And I think that's what we're going to do. So we'll see. I've been bad with estimates, so I'm not even trying this time.
Well, good luck. Good luck, man. That's really those are two pretty big announcements. That's big.
Yeah, and hopefully the marketing thing helps with the finances thing.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, it's unlikely that it will be a like blockbuster success in the terms of we roll this out and instantly revenue jumps by, I don't know, a couple thousand. Yeah. But if the growth rate doubles, that would be nice already.
For sure.
So, yeah, fingers crossed. As I said, I'm optimistic. If this doesn't work, then nothing will ever work, I guess.
Well, good luck, and it sounds like you got another year to keep cranking on it.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah.
What's up with you? I see in the notes you're planning on the year on the road and the board game.
Yeah.
On that.
So my two big projects right now. So you're on the road. My middle daughter, we were just sitting at dinner the other day, and she just did the little calculation over there or something. And I forget what it was exactly, but she was like 148 days or 152 days, whatever it was. And we were like, "What's that?" And she was like, "That's when we hit the road." And we're like, "Whoa,
that's not a lot of time."
That suddenly sounds like not very far away. So our big thing is, or one of the several big things is just getting the house ready, because we're just gonna rent it out for a year and then come back. So it's not like we're not selling anything. We're not, it's what a lot of people do, is just sell their homes and then go full time. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
So we have to figure out where to put all our stuff. And so we spent some time this weekend clearing out some storage space, figuring out how much room we're going to have, and it looks like we're going to have plenty. And just get starting to think through the logistics of that. Talk to a couple friends who have some rental properties, just getting some advice on that. How do you find a tenant? What do you do about a lease agreement? How do you manage maintenance? Just all this other stuff that's going to become a part-time job,
Yeah.
managing our primary wealth vehicle, our house, while we're on the road in the middle of nowhere in Virginia. But it really does. It feels like that stuff is coming together. Just gotta make it happen. Really zeroing in on I think the model of trailer that we're going to get, the model of truck we're going to get. So now it's a matter of, finalizing, lining up our financing, and hopefully making those purchases like at the beginning of March, which is months ahead of when we'll actually need them. But we want to, have them here at the house, get used to it, make some changes inside the trailer.
Are you planning to do a practice run?
Practice driving a giant truck and 40 feet worth of trailer. Yes, I'm going to be practicing that a lot. So, drivers of Boulder County, beware. So, yeah,
driving is certainly an aspect as well, but I was wondering if you just like do a weekend trip or a week-long trip to.
Oh yeah.
Like we're gonna see what's working and what's missing and what needs adjustments.
Yes, for sure. And I mean, seriously, spending some nights in the trailer in our driveway, but it's, oh, hey, we need this, or this didn't work. And just doing as many of those test runs as possible. You're totally right. Yeah, that's the plan. So
nice.
Yeah. I think it'll be a whole lot of fun. Yeah. Plenty of adventures that we'll have to overcome for sure. One of which, I mean, I guess this is the other thing that I don't have in my notes, but that I need to really start thinking about is just the Wi-Fi, the internet situation, and getting a plan in place there. What most people do is have like 2 or 3 different cellular plans. And because depending upon where you are, T-Mobile will be working, but Verizon isn't, and then vice versa. And so just getting all that equipment and stuff in place so that, wherever we are, I've got some sort of connectivity.
Did you, I was thinking about this. Did you see the Starlink beta program? I think it's active in the US. Yes. You get this nice dish you can put everywhere. That sounds like I've been eyeing that, and I'm like, that would solve so many problems of moving just in the middle of nowhere.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, I've been watching Starlink. Like I said, we've been talking about this for like a year and a half, I think. And so, I mean, I signed up for their stuff so long ago and just don't get much. They are right now, I mean, they are very focused on people who are stationary for the beta thing, which that makes sense. But yeah, 8 years from now, when all the kids are off to college and Laura and I do this permanently, we'll put a Starlink satellite on the roof of the RV.
That sounds like so much fun.
It's still years away, but
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's that. On the more, the creative project side of things, the board game, it's not in a place yet where, I could share it and people could play it. But it's getting there. I needed to make some updates to the artwork over the last week, because I just, in terms of like mocking up the cards and things so that I could print them out and, my co-designer could print them out. I just used some artwork from some video games that were pretty cool and realized, oh shoot, I can't put these up on the internet and start sending it around for people to play. So I had to make those updates. But that's just for the, one side of the game, the hiker. So my co-designer and I are actually meeting today, to, and the goal is to finalize the rules for the rescue team. And so once the first draft of those rules are pretty firm, then we will, write out all of the cards, and then I'll design those cards, push them all up into Tabletopia with some rules and a YouTube video, and hopefully, be able to send a link to you and Rob Walling and Justin and all these other people who like, whoa, you're doing a game, and anybody else who wants it. So that, man, my fingers are crossed. That I wish I could say I think that'll happen by the next time we talk, but I expect that we'll run into a couple of rules issues, and shoot, we didn't think about that. It's so much like software.
Yeah, so many edge cases.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Oh, what happens when this player does this thing? And that's not how the application's supposed to work. You broke our caching.
No, you could do this.
So I think optimistically, but probably not really, would be next week. But I do think by 2 episodes from now, I will be putting a link to the game in the show notes. In fact, I kind of want to just even commit to that. So
okay,
that'll be fun.
I write down a note.
Yeah. So that'll be good. Client work is going really, really good right now. This new contract I've got is going really, really well. They're really pleased, and it is giving me plenty of time during the week to be able to think about and spend some time on researching for a year on the road and designing a board game and refilling my tank. It feels real. It feels good.
That's great. By the way, I think you mentioned it in when this new contract came up initially, that there's potential for like fueling Headlamp from this and doing research for Headlamp. Is this still a thing you're thinking about, or are you actively ignoring that part of it right now?
I am currently actively ignoring giving any mental energy to building a SaaS, because I'm drained. Without a co-founder, I'm drained. Where it could definitely potentially end up fueling or funding the continued development of Headlamp is that I think sometime at the end of February, this client and I are going to, review the work, review our existing agreement, and could potentially increase my monthly retainer.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if that were to happen, and then I'm able to shave off, some of that to fund development, and design and marketing, et cetera, then that's how I would look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But right now it hits 100%. Yeah, it hits 100% of my monthly target for 50% of my time. And so if it got to the point where it hit 130% with 60% of my time or 70% of my time, then I would just shave off some of that and act like a product owner, but not developer.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. So still on the table, but I am actively not thinking about that until I feel recovered. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks for asking about that, though. Yeah, I'm sure it's good to keep in mind. But
yeah, I was thinking, because it sounded like initially this was like the base idea of getting this contract was to stay in the same mindset both during consulting and while building the product. And now that the contracts are actually the project's up and running, you're basically ignoring that product side, which in a way feels weird, but I totally think it's the right thing to do right now for you. So no mistake made there.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. When this first came along, I was like, oh wow, I'll be able to use that other 50% for Headlamp. And I just can't. I could. I just don't want to. I think I would just.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
You're now using it for planning the year on the road and building a board game, which
recovering
sounds
from
exciting
burnout.
as well. So
Yep.
that's cool. By the way, does this board game have a name?
I mean, we've just been calling it backpack or backpacking because it's like about a lost hiker, but that's just more of like just a code name. I don't think that's a working title. Yeah. So nothing yet. Yeah.
Cool. So you're up for like suggestions, name suggestions for the game?
Yeah, maybe I should call it Headlamp, because if you had one, you would have gotten lost now.
GPS.
Yes.
GPS tracker.
Yeah. Open to suggestions. Something having to do with the backcountry and losing your way. So, anyway. Well, cool. Yeah. Good catching up.
Yeah. Let's talk more next week.
All right. Looking forward to it. Later, man.
Bye.